TOA Fit Body and Fit Body Forever communities. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Robert Linkle, happy to see you all here. I want to talk about some aging components here, and I've been diving deep into the Liftmore research studies. I've been diving into Belinda Beck and Dr. Peter Attia's webinar that they did together, or podcast they did together. And I found this clip that Peter discussed after, and this hits home on something. As I say it, people are gonna go like, "Oh yeah, of course you say that now." I was talking to John earlier, one of our TOA affiliates, and I was like, "Dude, have you ever heard me say this ever?" And he goes, "No, you're right. I haven't. I have never said once that the definition of sarcopenia is the loss of muscle mass and function due to natural decline of aging. Like, I've never added that last part in there, though that is written into many definitions, is that this is something that naturally occurs with the aging process. And I've never said that part because I don't think that's accurate. And I haven't really heard anybody else say that they felt that way too until I saw this. So let's listen to Peter here talk a little bit about his engagements and interactions with Belinda and some of the things that she said.
From this podcast that blew my mind, Belinda doesn't believe that age-related BMD, bone mass density reduction, is physiologic. So if that sounds familiar to an astute listener, it's because Luc Van Loon said the exact same thing about lean mass and movement. So if anybody's looked at figures of, age on the x-axis, and then pick your favorite y-axis, muscle mass, spontaneous movement, bone density, they all have these curves that very smoothly go down, and they go down faster as more time extends. So they have a negative second derivative and a negative first derivative. And Luke, in our podcast, said, I don't think this is physiologic. I don't think it's inevitable. I think what you're looking at is the averaging of a bunch of step function drops that occur due to inactivity. And Belinda effectively said the same thing about bone mineral density. She said,
Okay, let's dive into that here just a little bit. So what he said here in this first part is that she doesn't believe that this is physiologic, meaning that because we're getting older, that doesn't naturally mean that this has to happen. And the argument for this is and hang with me here as I go through this. You have a generation of people that started lifting weights as teenagers. For the first time ever, teenagers started lifting in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. That's my generation. I grew up 12, 13 years old learning how to lift. My sister's boyfriend taught me how to lift, took me into the gym, showed me how to back squat, how to bench press. Our whole generation did that. All of us, guys and girls, all athletes, everybody, we all lifted. Now, mind you, most of the time it was just the athletes that did that. But our generation has learned that that is normal, common practice. But the generation before me, my brother's generation, did not. Some would work out, some wouldn't, but most of them find that later in life. So let's say when they're 50, they start to, or 40, let's say, they start to lift weights. Well, there's 20 years that they've missed of resistance training. They could have been adding and building bulk and muscle to their frame. So if we started as teenagers and just continued to build muscle and work on our bone density, and we carry that on throughout our entire lifetime, what we're looking at here is a potential shift and change of our, let me grab it up here for you, of our bell curve here of sarcopenia. Meaning that as we age, this is what Peter was just talking about. Muscle mass here going up your vertical axis, and then age on your horizontal axis. Right around here, adult life, they consider that 30 to 35. See the two tapers that are now dropping down. The one on the bottom are those that do not resistance train, are not physically active. They trend towards that disability threshold super, super quick. And the threshold is where someone else is now going to have to take care of you. You have a full disability and or require assistant tools, that kind of a thing, a cane, a walker, a wheelchair, etc. The other one is that you are maintaining muscle mass and independent, and you don't need anybody else's assistance. Notice that will go all the way to termination, meaning until they die, they will not need anyone to help, assist, and take care of them. And that is our goal. Our goal is to not have individuals shrink and turn into this little frame over here. Instead, maintain this muscle mass. So if you have a whole generation of people that are now lifting weights and staying active, and they do that from their teens all the way on through life, this curve of where we see everybody hit a peak and drop down, I believe that's going to change. I believe that's going to become almost flat. Now, granted, as our bodies will change, we won't be able to maintain as much muscle mass as we had when we were, say, 25 or 30. But in comparison to generations and generations that build this chart of individuals that are deconditioned and don't train weights. So, of course, you're going to have people that, okay, up till about 30, you've met your max muscle mass gain, your max bone density gain. And then because you're not doing anything, well, now we've hit the top of the curve, and now, of course, we're going to start trending down. But those that don't, those that are more active, that trends way less. Well, are we just comparing now individuals that are deconditioned, that have not resistance trained ever, compared to individuals that do a tiny bit more, right? My thought process here is, if the majority, if not all people, were to resistance train, would this chart look the same? And Belinda is saying no. Peter is saying no. I am saying no. I don't think that's the case. So let's take a look at a couple of people here. You look at this. This is 58-year-old, almost 60-year-old Mike Tyson. Look at this guy, okay? Look at the physique on this guy. He is absolutely jacked. Now, the first thing people will say is, oh, he's using steroids. He's not using steroids. He's about to fight Jake Paul tomorrow night, and he's being tested, and he is not using steroids. Is he on hormone replacement therapy? Yes. Is he using creatine? Absolutely. Is he taking all kinds of different supplements and everything else? Does he have the best therapies and recoveries and training styles that money can buy? Absolutely. He's being paid $40 million to do this fight. So he's probably invested $5 million, I would guess, on his training, his nutrition, and all that. And that's how he can maintain a physique like that. Look at how he used to look when he was younger. Okay, there are some pictures here. Here, look at this one. Look at that. This is a 60-year-old guy. He's got the beard, right? Look at the abs on this guy. You're telling me that he just has like premier genetics and just no matter what, he's always going to look like that? You know what? Here, let me show you. He hasn't always looked like this. Sorry for the terminology, but I know it'll show. Look at this. This is what he looked like before. He was 300 pounds. This was not that long ago. Here he is in his prime. This looks like it's doctored. That's not him. Okay. Here he is in his prime. Well, nope, that one isn't either. I showed you him a second ago in his prime, right? So you saw that. Let me go back. Okay, here he is. Here he is in his prime. Right. Oh, it's not doing that search. Anyhow, you guys got me. Here, I'll go back real quick. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Look at this one. This is him in his prime. Look at him. Absolute killer, okay, as a boxer. Absolute killer. Super jacked, super muscular, extremely fit, the scariest man on the planet, okay? Now, years go by, in his early 50s, this is him. I watched him on stage. I saw him live on stage doing a stand-up experience of his whole life. I watched him live. 300 pounds. I went, whoa, Mike, what happened to Mike Tyson? Got out of shape. He started thinking about boxing again, started training again, and look at him. Look at what he turned into. So his genetics did not dictate anything. His work ethic did. But he spent his entire life lifting weights, except for about 7 years, from 47 to 53 or something like that, where he let himself go. And he got really, really heavy. Okay? Let's look at Sylvester Stallone. 73-year-old Sylvester Stallone. All right, you're going to, right away, took steroids. I know he did. There are tons of bodybuilders out there who all took steroids. And you know what? If you just take steroids and don't lift weights, you just get real heavy. You just put on fluid and body fat. That's it. You have to train. So even though we don't want to look super overly muscular, jacked like this, when he was just being Rambo, he's not taking anything here. There really wasn't anything other than Dianabol, and obviously he didn't take it because he didn't get that big. Was he taking some other stuff? I'm sure he was, right? My point is without work, without ethic, you're not going to be able to create this physique at 70 something years old. 76, look at him. Right? Do you remember Copland? Let me show you Copland. Look at him in Copland. Tell me this guy's never been out of shape. Look at him. He's 235 pounds in this movie. Okay? He put on all kinds of weight for this movie, for the role in particular. And then less than a year later, filmed a new Rambo movie and had to get super cut again. It's effort, people. Yes, genetics play a great role in this, okay? But you've got to be able to put in the effort. Do you think that Sylvester Stallone is going to become... Here we go. Do you think Sylvester Stallone, here he is in Tulsa King, do you think that guy, you think he's going to become this old, rounded over, wrinkled up old man who has to use a wheelchair and can't get around? I don't think so. He's almost 80. Look at him. Look at Arnold. Arnold is 80, I think. Here he is at 76 years old. Look at his arms. He could still play the Terminator if he wanted to. Look at him. I mean, this is what happens when you resistance train your entire life. Yo, look at that. At 73, he cuts. Are you kidding me? I don't accept it. I don't accept that when we get older, you have to become old and frail and you can't hang on to muscle mass. I don't accept it. So where's the proof? We don't have enough people. We don't have a generation of people that have gone through their whole life lifting weights yet. Arnold's the first, and he wasn't a full generation. He was an underground cult of bodybuilders in the 60s. It was a subculture to be a bodybuilder. 1% of 1% of 1% of 1% of people bodybuilded in the 60s. So we don't have enough people to go, oh, well, what does that curve look like? But I bet if you looked at just the bodybuilders who spent their entire life lifting, they all have really high, significantly high amounts of muscle mass, that they all have very dense bones. And that's not because of steroids. This huge bulk in size, that amount of muscle mass, I'm not talking about every person looking like that. My point is that you can gain muscle and maintain that muscle throughout a lifetime, and you are not destined to become this frail, wicked, withering little body that can't do anything on their own. We are not destined for that. I simply do not believe it. I don't accept it. I think that if we perform the way that we think, let me bring up my other one here. If we perform the way that I think people can, twice a week, 30 minutes is what the Lift More studies did. Everybody got stronger. Everybody got more dense. Some people got taller by 0.5 centimeter. Are you kidding? Kyphotic round shoulders started to get better. People started to see their shoulders again. You got to watch this. You got to watch this. Okay, let's go. Let's hear the rest of this from Peter.
I think this is a necessary thing that has to go down over age. I think it goes down with age because of use. You use less, you load less, and it becomes a vicious cycle. So less loading means less muscle mass, which means less loading, which means less bone density, and this whole thing sort of spirals forward. And so now we're at the opposite end of the spectrum. Is like, what is the implication for those of us who are listening and thinking about the second half of our life? I think it's just like, you got to avoid injury, and you have to stay active, and you have to keep loading. You have to find safe ways to load, because clearly some of the things I used to do to load myself in my 20s, I'm not going to do in my 50s. I sure as hell am not going to do in my 60s, but I can't get to the point where I'm not loading.
That's the best line in this whole thing, okay?
What is
the best line in the whole thing?
For those of us who are listening and thinking about the second half of our life, I think it's just like, you got to avoid injury, and you have to stay active, and you have to keep loading.
He was about to say, you just can't stop, is what I feel like he was going to say. You can't stop. You cannot stop. If you get injured, you can't stop. If you are tired, you can't stop. If you're wanting to go on vacation, you can't stop. If you just want to take it easy today, you can't stop. You can't stop. If you don't want this result, you have to keep going, no matter what. These are the decisions. Lane Norton said it great in the last video that I did. You can be old with pain and not move well, or you can be, and be weak. You can be old and be weak and have pain, or you can be old and be strong and have pain. Which one do you want? Because being weak, you're Mr. Burns. You're frail. You're folded. You're not enjoying a quality of life. But we're gonna have pain, gang. It's just the way of life. I dare you to go find someone at 80 years old that's just like, I have no ailments, nothing hurts, everything feels great. Because I never lifted weights and I never went and did anything. Even if you just sit for 80 years and you don't move around much, you're still gonna have aches and pains because you sat. So those that get up and they move and they overuse and I need a knee replacement, they're living, man. They're living. Either way, you're gonna have pain. That's the whole point. That's exactly what we're talking about here. That unfortunately is an inevitable result of the aging process. But can we reduce the amount of pain? Can you increase your quality of life? Can you make everything better as far as the longevity curve and the interpretation of your quality and your life experiences by being strong and independent versus being weak and frail and being bedridden, etc.? What do you got to lose at this point? We see what the future is. The curve shows it. Those are deconditioned people. What do the conditioned people do? You know, Arnold is 80. He's still making movies and TV shows. FUBAR, great show. Still going into its second or third season. Sly, 78, 77 years old. Second season of Tulsa King. He looks amazing. They're not stopping. You can't stop. That's the whole point. I think that a group of people that do not stop are going to show us an entire life, number one, of high quality of life, high muscle mass, high bone density. And they're going to show a very minimal drop off in muscle mass. But all that is going to correlate to healthier heart, healthier brain, cognition, all the other functions in life of them maintaining all their faculties to themselves, etc. All those things that just kind of come with like the average older person, that they're going to have all these issues. Not necessarily. I don't think so. Dr. Lyon, Gabrielle Lyon, puts it the best way. The more muscle you have, the better and the longer quality of life you're going to have. Pack on muscle. You got to have muscle. And all those folks out there, you're afraid and you're like, I'm going to get hurt. And I don't mean this in any kind of way like it's just going to happen. You're going to have pain no matter what. So do you want to be strong with pain or weak with pain? Because strong looks a hell of a lot better. I got to tell you, it looks a hell of a lot better. I want you to have a good quality of life. I want you to go and do all kinds of things. I want you to stay independent. The mindset of, I can't lift things heavy because it's going to hurt me, that is completely backwards. It's exactly the opposite. It's only going to help you. You just need to progress it. When you lift light loads for thousands of reps, those are over abuse reps. You could do 3 sets of 5 with a heavy weight. That's 15 reps. Or I could do 15 sets of 15, right? And now I've got 155, whatever that is, right? With little tiny weights. 10 sets of 15, 150 reps. Those little tiny weights are just going to wear and abuse and abuse and abuse. Work capacity wise, there's greater value in the 3 sets. If you just do that heavier load, really challenge yourself for 3 sets of 5, 15 total reps, that's it, you're done. But it was heavy. Your body will respond better to that than let's keep it light and I'll just do more reps, do more reps, do more reps. Well, now you get all kinds of tendonitis, bursitis, all kinds of overuse injuries because you're just putting too many reps through your body. That's the whole point. That's kind of what brought us to some of the limitations and the injuries in the first place is overuse. So what gets it better? Let's lift heavy. Let's get some more muscle mass on there so I don't overuse these muscles once or twice and get hurt. I'm fine. It's so backwards. It's a mindset. I'm going to get hurt. You're not. As long as you do it right, you're not. It's actually only going to benefit you. All right, enough of my rant. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got some good takeaways from it. Any comments, questions, feel free to hit me up in the comment section down below. And if not, please continue to fight your good fight against sarcopenia. We will see you next time. Take care.